got another Opel Manta restoration on the go at the minute. This is my brother's car. We actually restored this car about 9 or 10 years ago, I believe it was now. It looked really nice when it was done, but unfortunately time has passed. The car's been used daily for around 6 years or so by the person who bought this off us, and it has lived on the coast, so never been garaged and suffered quite a lot with the sea air and whatnot. So it does want quite a bit of work again now. Got some inner wings I've got some holes in. Get my hand through that one. Same again over there. Inner wings broke through there and there. Battery tray is not looking the best. We've got the radiator cross member down here. That's got some scabs on it. So we're going to be going through this car again. We're going to be stripping it and doing another complete restoration on this and another full respray. I've already took some panels off it just to assess it. As you can see, the wings, the bonnet, the lights and stuff are out, which are all stacked up there. I've took the airbox off and the washer bottle. So we're going to crack on with this, guys. We're going to get ripping into this. So yeah, there we have it. The old Manta that we restored 10 years ago is back with us, back in its original home. We're going to commence and get this looking as good as it did 10 years ago. So we're going to get these seats out first, and the door seals and carpets, and then move on into the back seats. We're going to end up taking the glass out of this car as well, and probably take all this trim off, which should be fun. So to get these seats out, we have 4 bolts, one there, one on the other side, over here, and then again the same on the back. So we're going to buzz these out, pull these seats, and then we can deal with the frames once the seats are out the car, so we're not struggling trying to get under here. Right, so that's both seats out. We now need to take these runners out. There's a couple of bolts either side, and then they just slot into the runners. So we'll get them out, get the centre console out, we'll pull the carpet out and see what horrors are hiding under here. So my first step is to remove the alternator. This is easily done by releasing the top bolt, let the slack off to remove the belt. After that, I'm going to do the bottom bolt, which will then release the alternator. I'm moving this out of the way just to gain access to the starter motor wiring, as it's quite difficult to get to on these cars. It's underneath the inlet manifold. After that, I need to release the fuel pipe. To do that, I need to release the Jubilee clip, pull the fuel pipe off, and then I just kink it over using a cable tie just to prevent any fuel leaking out whilst we're doing this. There is still fuel in the tank at this point. We will be draining the tank at a later date. This just secures it for now, gets it out of the way and keeps it safe. Now I'm removing the brake vacuum pipe between the servo and the inlet manifold. This is secured just using one 19mm bolt. It's easy enough to remove. This just gets it out of the way, prevents it from getting caught up on the engine while we're removing it. Next, we remove the wiring from the coil, which is simple enough. Everything just unplugs, nothing to unbolt here. Then the king lead, again, just pulls off. Now we move on to the underside of the car, where you'll see me here releasing the speedo cable, which just unscrews. Then we move on up to the reverse light switch, which is just two plugs and spade connectors, which again, just simply unclip. Now I'm undoing the clutch cable, which again is a simple process. Just held on with a 10mm lock nut and then a 12mm adjuster nut. Next we need to release the prop shaft, which is just secured with a couple of 13mm nuts, and there is some locking tabs to release before you can undo the nuts. A couple of the locking tabs are actually missing on this particular car, so it came off quite easily, and then it simply just pushes forward on a spring and releases. Next we move on to the exhaust. We do that by releasing the exhaust clamp. Bolt's actually snapped on this one. It was very rusty, but we don't need this clamp, so it's just now in the bin. We won't be reusing that. Now we remove the rest of the HT leads and we release the dizzy cap just to get it out of the way to give us access to the exhaust manifold bolts. Then it's onto the exhaust manifold bolts themselves. Again, a couple of these had snapped, so there wasn't many holding this manifold on. Once them are now removed, we can then release the manifold from the engine block and then pull it up and out from underneath the car. Next step is to remove the gear knob, which simply screws off. Then we release the gaiters, which just again pop off nice and easily. Then we need to push the car out, drain the coolant into a bucket, and then we can turn the car around and push it back in the workshop so we can get access to the front of the engine with the engine crane. So with the coolant drained, we can now release the fan cowling, pull the radiator up and out of the way for better access. Okay, so with everything released, coolant's drained, radiator out and everything disconnected, we can now turn the vehicle around, push it in the workshop backwards to allow us to get room to get the engine crane in the front of the vehicle, ready to strap it up. So in comes the engine crane. We're now using a nice big heavy duty strap, and we've got a couple of lashing points on the engine, one at the front, one at the back. This should balance it out pretty nicely. We'll get a feel for it, give the engine a little lift, take the weight. Once we've done that, we then go underneath the vehicle, back down the pit to release the two gearbox bolts, and then the engine can be guided out nice and steadily. start to release some of this stuff from the bulkhead, which is the heater box and the connecting pipework and the cables which control the heaters. We was not expecting to find what we found hiding behind this heater box once we released it, which you're about to see shortly.
That's bad.
Ooh.
Can I put it back in?
No. Well, you can.
That is food bad.
Let's get around after these. So the next step is to remove the clutch cable, then the accelerator cable. With those out of the way, we can then disconnect the wiper mechanism and the motor linkage. Get that out of the way, then we can move into the brake master cylinder by releasing the brake pipes and also separating the master cylinder away from the brake servo. Once the master cylinder and the servo separated, we can then get back inside the car, release the bolts that hold the servo to the bulkhead and the fixing bolt to the pedal.
Whoa.
Not a lot of strength left in that, is there?
Like well crusty.
Okay, so that's the engine out and the gearbox. That is not going back in. We're going to be doing a build on that, specking it up a little bit, getting a bit more power, putting throttle bodies on it, management and stuff. We stripped the bulkhead, got all the heater box out, the wiper linkages off, some of this rubber matting off, brake master cylinder and servo off, brake pipes disconnected, and I'll show you now, I'll give you a little walk around at some of the rust we've come across. Now we've stripped it, it is pretty bad. You can see down there we've got quite a big hole going on down there in the seams. There's another hole down in there and I've just put my finger through. Nice. And then this is what was hiding behind the heater box. All that nasty stuff. I've never actually seen one rot there. That's a new one on me, and I've restored a lot of these cars, and my brother as well. Battery tray completely shot. That's going to want a new battery tray putting in there. And then into the floors. We've got some big holes going on down in the floors as well, and over on the driver's side. Yeah, not good at all. So it's going to be having some sections put in there. So now we're moving on into a bit of cutting, grinding, banging and welding. So we're just in the process of removing this inner wing. As you'll see there, I've started to drill out some of the spot welds, and also some spot welds into this little flitch panel, that strengthener there. I've blown through a few of these, but it doesn't really matter because obviously the panel behind this, which is the inner wing, is getting replaced, so that'll give us something to plug weld to once that new one goes on. Anyway, I am going to have to cut out a section of this battery tray to get to this rear section of the inner wing. So what I'm going to do in a minute, I'm just going to cut a large section of this out with a grinder, which will give me better access, and I can then start to dress and rework all these edges where the new inner wing is going to fasten to and be plug welded to. Right, so it's time to remove this rusty old inner wing. To do that, we need to slit the seams between the two panels. Here you'll see me slitting the rear seam between the bulkhead stroke A post and the inner wing itself. Then we move on to the front, and again I'm just doing the same thing, just slitting the gap between the front panel and the inner wing, and then I'll move on just to the inside of the inner wing, again slit that between the inner wing and the front panel. Next we move on to the inside, the inner wing, and to get access to this inside flange I just need to chop out a little bit of the battery tray just to expose that rear flange so I can get in with the grinder. And again, I'll just split down, straight down the middle of this and cut this off between the bulkhead and the inner wing. Right, so with them bits separated, now you'll see me moving on into the strengthening flitch plate with a hammer and a chisel just to split these spot welds. I had previously drilled these spot welds out and now I'm just splitting the panels in between each other just to release that. Now I'll move on to the inner wing, and again I'm just slicing a big chunk of this out just to get access to make it easier to then get in and actually dress up these edges and clean everything up and just remove the excess steel from the areas where we've cut everything out from. So with all the spot welds removed and the panels separated, we can now remove this old rusty wing off the car and get it in the bin. So with that inner wing out of the way, we've now got access to get to the remaining bits of steel work, which we're just splitting with, again, a hammer and chisel, just to get this off, and then we can grind up and get the panel prepped ready for the new inner wing. Next you'll see me chopping out a piece of the old battery tray. This is again just to gain better access, so when I put our replacement inner wing on, I've got a better datum point to gauge the position of where that inner wing needs to sit, and I can start to tack the inner wing to the bulkhead just below the battery tray there, where you can see I've cleaned it up down to some nice fresh steel. Right, so we've got our old inner wing chopped off. We started prepping up these areas. We have chopped out some more bits of rust that have come across. We can deal with these once we've got the inner wing back in. And I've also cut out this big lump of the battery tray just to give us better access to where the inner wing is going to be attached to. We don't want to take too much strength out. I've also cut a section out of here that was rotten. So we've got our edges prepped up as much as we need to, where we're going to be welding to. We've got our inner wing here. I've actually ran this through the shot blaster, and I've also just gone over it with a wire wheel on a grinder, because there was some little bits of like underseal and really sort of rubbery stuff that the shot blaster won't bring off. So it's all smooth now. We've took it all down back to the bare metal. So the next step is I'm going to trial fit this, see how it fits on our car, take some measurements, make sure it seems to line up. I'll then move on to tacking this into place, and then I'll try a wing on and just make sure the wing lines up, and we'll go from there. So with that tacked into position, it's now time to try our outer wing on the car and see if it lines up. After trying this on, everything seemed to line up nice. We had a good gap on the front panel, we had a good gap against the A-pillar and also onto the lower front balance. Everything seemed to line up well. All the bolt holes seemed to line back up into the original spots. So that seems to fit pretty good. And to move on to spot welding the inner wing. As you'll see there, place a couple of clamps on just to hold this into position and pull it tight against our chassis leg. And now I'll start to just knock these spot welds in, make sure they're nice and tight against the chassis leg, spot weld it, tap it again, spot weld it, and just keep moving along all the way from front to back and get this welded in place permanently. that's the old one out. You can see the state of that was in. Rotten as an absolute pear. That can now go in the bin. So we'll offer our new one up now and see where this sits. And now we know that is in the lowest spot it's going to go. We can now scribe our line across the back of there, and we know it's going to be in the right spot. We can see that that is level with this, so that's pretty much spot on. So that, I'll say, is not in a bad position. Take this back out. And now, while I've got access, before I start to tack this new panel in, I'm going to start to clean all these edges up. I'm going to clean quite a lot of paint off this back edge, and clean all this up and get it all prepped, all nice back down to the bare metal, ready to weld the new one in. As I said previously, I just need to spot weld the return flange in on the downside of this battery tray. I need to finish a seam off underneath here, but I'm going to do that from inside the car because it's a little bit difficult to get under there, as you can see. It is quite difficult to see sometimes when you've got sparks flying around. It was quite a difficult section to remove this because there is already some patches in there that have been done previously, so it's always a little bit harder to remove sections of steel when it's got a couple of patches already welded into place.
I hear them hating, but that's only cause they inconsistent. He said the weapon wouldn't pass, but now they wouldn't form.
Now just giving it a quick hoovering out just to get rid of all those bits of rust dust and loose bits of metal, just to clean it up, nicer place to work in, and just to prevent anyone from leaning on any sharp bits of steel. Now what I'm doing here is just covering this hole with masking tape, so this gives me something to make a template off. So once I've got the complete hole covered with masking tape, I can then start to draw around the edge just to give us an outline. So then I can pull this masking tape off, take it over to the bench, cut it out, and then use this as our template ready to make our new patch with.
I be stunning, stepping in my pennies like the magic play me, and I hope they play me never, and they play this forever. Put my family on so we can make it together.
So this is our template that we've just made using masking tape, as you've seen there previously. And now just cutting this out. Obviously the masking tape is sticky, so this now allows me to stick our cutout template onto a piece of fresh steel. I can then outline this once it's on the steel, peel the masking tape back off, and then take it over to the bench and cut it out. So we've got this patch in somewhat of a position now. It is only in roughly at the moment, still need to do a bit of trimming, a bit more cleaning up to do, but it is in a rough position. Obviously we are going to have to add a little piece onto this patch. I just couldn't get it all in one piece, but I did get sort of 95% of it in one piece rather than having a load of different patches in here. Some awkward angles going on here because it does roll around there, twist, and then roll back, and then it sort of twists up the side of the gearbox tunnel here as well, so there is a lot of rolls and curves on that. It does want some dollying, so we will be doing some hammer and dollying, just flattening it all out, getting it nice and smooth as possible. Also just cleaned up where we've installed the battery tray there. That's come out pretty well. So I'm just going to bang some zinc rich primer across this bare steel now where we put this battery tray in. We'll let that go off, and then I'll jump back on here and start tacking this in and trimming these bits out. Then we'll add this last section on there, then we can get it all seam welded and flat it back with a grinder. Right, so we've got most of the patch done in this floor now. Just a bit more grinding back to do. Just tidy it up a bit. We now need to access inside the wheel arch where we've welded it around here, just to grind these welds back, and then we need to just stitch weld it, the chassis back to the floor pan. Same again on this side. So to get better access to this, we're going to drop this front cross member off. It is having this cross member replaced anyway, so it does need to come off either way, because we've got another cross member there which has been strengthened, so that's going to be going back on this car, not this one. So we're going to drop this off, get it out of the way, and crack on, get some grinding done. So here I'm just removing the final 2 bolts from the cross member. We had already removed the other bolts at this point. These are just the last 2, and then we can drop this down onto the floor, roll it out from under the car and get it out of our way. Out it comes. So this is the outside of the patch you've just seen us make and weld into position. What Kevin's doing here now is just flattening back these welds to tidy this up, and then we'll move on to the outside of the chassis rail and do the same again, get all these welds flatted back and then make this repair almost invisible. It's now time to concentrate on this other inner wing. What I'm doing here is just drilling out as many spot welds as I can from the flitch plates and any other fixing points to the inner wings and the chassis rails and front panel. This will allow us now to release this, make it a little bit easier to remove, and then I'll go around it, zip it off with the angle grinder, just cut a large chunk out. Once we've got the bulk of it out of the way, I can then go around the edges and start to prep all the edges ready to accept our replacement inner wing. We have now got our inner wing ran through the shot blaster, stripped all the paint off it. It's come up pretty well, to be fair. Good solid inner wing. Wants a couple of little bits of patching, wants a little bit in this corner, a little bit across here and a little bit down there. Obviously we've got to remake all this section yet anyway to meet this, but we've just trial fitted it. We've just tried the wing on. It's not a million mile out. Wants a little bit of a tweak, a little bit of jiggling around, but that's gone in pretty well. That's a nice solid inner wing back on the car. Hell of a lot better than the old one. We will be taking this back off to repair these other sections before we go ahead and start to tack that inner wing in. So it's coming along pretty well. It's getting stronger by the day. All the battery tray's done. This inner wing's done. Bulkhead's done. Done the piece down there. That's now laid in, ready for trialling. I've got the floor done, up into the kick panel done. I've cleaned up behind the bulkhead there as well, where we welded that patching previously. Done a lot of grinding, flatted back a lot of welds. Not a bad bit of progress. We've done a couple of repairs to the A-posts, and again on this side we've done some repairs here. We've also put a new washer bottle tray in there as well. As well as that, the floors are now done. Last time you've seen these floors, you'll have seen some big gaping holes in there. They're now nice and solid. These are, that's pretty much majority of a full floor pan section that we've changed there because the rock come quite far back. We've put new jacking points under there as well. That's just for reference. That's what they look like when they're off the car. So it's also a new jacking point. The chassis rails on this was actually pretty solid. This has now been treated with phosphoric acid, which is that stuff there. It's really good as a rust protection. Also, while you're leaving stuff in bare metal, if you treat it with that stuff, it doesn't flash rust on you. So both sides of the floor are now done. Again, over that side you'll have seen there was two big massive holes in that floor. So we're going to crack on, and the aim of the game today is we're going to repair the rear corners of the screen because they are pretty bad. So we're going to crack on with that now. Right, so that's both corners of the rear screen frame repaired. A couple of nice little patches in there. So tiny little bits to get into and grind out. We've got a little tool to get in there and do that. So we'll do that over the next couple of days. But we've got the bulk of it out, and that is now nice and solid. And again, in there, we've got a nice piece put up there. So we know now that we're not going to get any water coming down the inside of the screen and getting into the boot and rotting the boot out. Again, is what these cars was quite common for. So not a bad bit of progress there. Obviously we've got to remove this old one first. This has had a big piece put in there at some point. You can see the difference between that one and that one. It's had a massive big nasty piece of steel put in there. So this is going to come out and we're going to replace it with this nice new old stock one. Yeah, they're about as random as Opel did them. And this battery's down as well. Right, so we've got a couple of little patches made up here. We've got this one. It's going to go in there, something like that. And then we actually have a reinforcing patch on the back that we've had to cut out, which is going to be a secondary piece, because on the back of here you have a little flitch plate which I've had to cut out, so we've got that piece there as well. So we're going to pop this front section in first. We've also put that little flitch on there as well to replicate. If you can see it on there, there's a little flitch that sticks out here, so we've made that on our patch as well. So we get this front bit welded in, and then we will spot weld our rear section to the back of this. Right, so we've managed to get the welding done in that corner. We've got a patch done in there. We've now got the front radiator cross member fitted. That was the new old stock panel we had. We've just banged some primer on that. We've also been round it and give it a little bit of a licking of seam sealer just around all the edges and all the seams. Down the front panel, just up and around the corners of the battery tray. We've also moved on into the floors. Just put some seam sealer around the floor repairs that we did, just to make sure that is nice and watertight. Kev's just been chopping this wheel arch out, and we're cutting these flush, and that has now removed the rust from these arches, because we're actually fitting the fiberglass i240 body kit on this car, as we previously mentioned. So it saves us having to put a wheel arch repair panel in there. We don't need to do that because of this body kit. The arch needs chopping out anyway. What we're going to do at some point in the near future is pinch these two skins together and seam weld around this edge to make sure these are bonded together. Then we're going to make a tub which goes around the whole wheel arch and slots up inside our fiberglass panel, just so that no crap and dirt can get up between the kit and the rear quarter. So we're now moving on to this side, where we're going to do the same. And we're going to start chopping this arch out just the same as the other side. Get rid of this lip where we've marked out, and you'll see it's just started to go in these corners with the rust. So again, that eliminates the rust off these arches, and then we can start to put our tubs in both sides and start to mock up our body kit. We've just started mocking up the body kit. So this is a i240 replica kit. So it's a fiberglass kit. These are fiberglass wings, fiberglass side skirts. We've actually welded a piece of flat bar underneath there, which you can just see, and that's for this skirt to sit on. So that will be pushed all the way in there and fixed in, and then obviously sealed and painted along with the car. We've started to fit the wheel arch, the rear wheel arch, and we've actually tubbed inside there as well. So up inside here is now tubbed, so there's no gap between the kit and the rear quarter. This just prevents any dirt, grit, grime from going up between the kit and the wheel arch. Just keeps it nice and solid, and hopefully should prevent it from rusting in the future. So the more we look at this car, the more we tend to find with it, and I suppose it's always the case with old cars. You think you're getting somewhere with it, and then you start poking and you find something else. So the latest thing on this, as we're moving towards the back of the car, is we've been poking around the boot area. We found quite a lot of rust in the lower rear quarter section there, and you can see we've chopped a large piece of that out. We've started to fabricate a panel that's going to go up into this section there once we've replaced this lower rear quarter section, and we can then piece this and fasten this back into the boot floor. We've also found some quite extensive rust that was actually covered in seam sealer and all sorts of stuff. So you can see there we started to scrape out all the seam sealer from inside of here from a previous repair, and behind all of the seam sealer we found this nasty rusty stuff. So that is the aim of the game today. On this episode we're going to be dealing with this rust. So we're going to be chopping out a section of this boot floor into the lower rear panel. We're going to be fabricating some pieces in there, and also hopefully fabricating a piece for that and getting all this welded in. So without further ado guys, we're going to crack on with this and let's see how far we can get. Alright guys, so this is what we've ended up with roughly. So you can see there, this rusty old panel has actually got a little bit of a return edge on it as well. So we tried to recreate that, as you can see there. So these now are roughly the same shape. So I think we've got it somewhere near, so we'll now go and offer this up to the car. Let's see how it fits. Repaired the rear panel down here. We've also put a piece in down this corner. We've tubbed the arches ready for the kit, both sides. Do want a little bit of a fettling up, just a little bit of a grinding back and just neatening up a little bit. That will then allow us to put the kit on and no crap is going to get between the kit and the rear quarters. A little bit of a repair to do there. We've repaired the inside of the boot floor down this edge. Now Kevin is just on with grinding these grommet holes up. These, as you can see, are rotten around the edges, so we're going to be dealing with that in this episode, get that welded up. Now the next big step on this car is we're actually going to be fitting a non-sunroof roof skin on this car. This car was originally a non-sunroof car and someone's gone ahead and cut a hole in the roof and put a big nasty glass sunroof in the car. So we're going to be taking this off and fitting a non-sunroof skin. Now to do that, you'll see we've brown back the paint off here, which reveals this braze line. This is going to be our cut line, and then we've got to drill out all the spot welds all the way along this edge of the windscreen, the rear screen, and again some braze lines here. That's going to be our cut on the front, and then we're going to re-drill out all spot welds across the front window frame. Now the way we do this is we use these holes up in here for the trim. These are always in the same location on these cars, so what we do is draw a straight line between all these holes, and that gives us a datum point to reference from, to then transfer that onto our replacement roof. We cut both of these in the same spot, and then we can get a nice weld under here, grind it all back. So this is our donor roof. This was cut off a car probably many years ago. Now this section is already in the car itself, but we do need to add this section in to the car, so we do need to remove this off here and lay this in to the car once we've got that other roof skin off even. Here are our datum points as I was talking about earlier. So this is where we're going to run a line down here and cut between these holes, and obviously we've got to unpick this all the way around the frames, and obviously it's going to need a really good cleaning up inside. This is just surface rust, so this should clean up and treat pretty well, and then obviously we will paint all up inside the roof aperture before we put this on the car, after it's on the car, but this all will be cleaned up, treated and painted. So we're going to crack on. We're going to start unpicking this skin off that frame, then we can start to unpick this skin off that frame. Kev's just cleaning all these bits up to get these grommet holes welded up. There's a lot of cleaning up still required in the boot, some grinding down of these areas that we've repaired, and again down there where we've had to put a piece in, all wants grinding up. We've also got Tom coming in to start putting some filler back in these arches and start to level this up, ready for the kit to fit nice and straight. So plenty to do, plenty to be prepping on with. Let's get to it, let's do it. We're going to go for a trial fit of the roof now. This is not the final fit because obviously we still need to clean up and treat and paint all this framework, but we're just going to see if that fits on here and how it lines up. Right guys, so that is the trial fit of the roof. As you can see, we've got a pretty decent gap there. These edges do want cleaning up yet. Again, this is just a trial fit to see if we need to take any off or sort of clean up any edges or anything like that, which obviously we do there. But sight enough. It's pretty good all the way along this edge where we've cut. Obviously I've had to fold this edge out slightly to relieve it from the frame. So there is a bit of a step there, but this will be pushed back into place before we weld it, obviously, to get it nice and flush and butt welded. So these will be a nice seam weld all the way down there. It's nice and tight around here. It's nice and tight up there. And then we've got a nice little gap back as well. It's nice and flush across the window frame. Same again on the other side. So that's not a bad trial fit for the first attempt. Again, we will be tidying it up a little bit, doing a few little fettles. There is a support brace that needs to go in across here, so there's an additional brace that goes in there, which we have got. So that is basically just welded to each side of the frame, and then it's just sort of panel bonded between the frame and the roof. So there's that to go in as well. Tom has been putting a little bit of filler in these rear arches. You can see they're looking a lot better now. He's going to come in tomorrow, get some primer on these, and just work out these lines, make sure everything's ship shape and nice there. Once that's all done, we'll just run a bead of sealer all the way around that edge, just to make that nice and straight as well. And then same again on here. Bit of filler in them arches there as well. And again, we're going to put a bead around there. Well, again, bear in mind, guys, this car is having this kit fitted, so this kit will fit pretty much all the way up to there. So you don't see any of this, but it's just nice to know that behind that kit is just as nice as the rest of the car. So that will be primed. We will be painting the rear quarter before we put the kit on as well. So behind the rear quarter will be painted same colour as the car. Kevin's been prepping this roof skin. What we're going to be using on this to start with is a phosphoric acid mix. So this is mixed 30% phosphoric acid, 70% water. And the idea of this is it's nice and thin, so this will soak into any dimples, any little crevices that are in this roof, and treat all that. Once that's gone off and dried, we'll give it a bit of a wipe down with a cloth as well. We don't want it to build up too thick, because this stuff does turn into like a thick, black, hard coating when it goes off. So we'll give it a quick spray with phosphoric acid, scrub it into all the pitted areas. Then we're going to use a product called Built Amber, which is a rust cure. We've tried many different rust cures. Built Amber's always been our go-to product. It's just pretty much the best on the market that we've found. Once it's been Built Ambered and rust cured, we'll then be giving it some zinc-rich primer and then some satin black, just to give it a top coat of protection. And again, same again on here. Once all this has been treated and primed, we'll be painting all this frame in satin black, tidying up these edges on the back and the front, and then we'll be ready pretty much to start to fix our roof skin back on the car. That's the etch weld on. What we're going to do now, we'll let this go off, give it another little coat in probably 15 or 20 minutes or so, and then we'll go around the rest of it with the zinc rich primer. We've wiped this roof panel down, took the old dirty stuff off and give it another scrub, and as you can see, it's brought even more rust out of that. So we're going to be cleaning this off next, and then going at this with the Built Amber Hydrate 80 and then the zinc rich primer on there as well. So Kev's now going to start to paint this roof in the zinc rich primer, and we'll move on to the next stage of the satin black. Right, so this is the following day. The roof is now dry. We've prepped up our edges around here. We're going to give this another little bit of a tickle up this edge. Stick a bit more down to the bare metal. Squeeze your side under. Your slide under. Yeah. This is the knackered side as well, isn't it? That'll be really nice. Yeah. So that is the roof now on. It's all welded up, seam welded, all plug welds are in, all ground back, that's come up pretty clean. Wants a little bit of fettling just to finish it off, but the bulk of it is done. Under here's come out really well. Where we welded it across there, that's all ground back, turned out really nice. Again, you're never going to see this by the time the black trim is in. There's a trim that runs all the way along this edge. This bit was seamed up, that's come out nice, and again down this back end, all flatted back really well. We do still need to put this bit in. We're going to have to clean this up, get all the rust off it, treat it, and then this needs to be welded in that sort of position up there, like so. So there's that still to put in, but that won't take as long. I'll show you on the other side and these back edges as well. These have been ground back. We did MIG these, but we managed to get most of the braze out of there and managed to get it MIG'd up. So that's come out pretty nice. Same again on this front corner. Still a little bit of fettling to do, but happy with that. And then under there, that's come out really well as well. And along that seam, all the way down there. Again, still some little bits of fettling to do. We're not after winning any awards with this. We're not claiming to be professional restorers. This is, again, just a hobby to us. We're just doing this in our spare time. These are our own cars. They're not customer cars. We're happy with them results. So last time you've seen us get this roof on, we've done a little bit more work on here. We started putting a little bit of a skim on the back pillar there. We're now moving into our body kit. So we've got the side skirt in, obviously we've got the front wing fastened on, and we've just fastened in this rear wheel arch temporarily. And what we've done here, we've marked up some holes, we've drawn all the way around this kit. We've then took the kit off and we've marked up a 10mm lip all the way around on our line, and marked up some points here where we drilled the holes on the car. So this is now all lined up nicely and this is all fastened on. So the next thing we're going to do, Tom's just finishing off a little bit of filler work on this side. And then this wheel arch is going to come back off the car. And these rear quarters are now ready for primer, so we want to get some paint behind this kit. So we're going to take this kit back off, we're going to lob some primer on there, let the primer go off, flat it back a bit, and we're going to get some of the orange, what we're painting this car in. This car is going orange. So the plan here is we're going to get some primer on there, let the primer go off, knock it back, and then we're going to paint these rear quarters just so that we've got some paint behind our wheel arches, and then obviously these rear quarters will be painted again when the whole car goes in for paint. Tom has got the primer on. Got a bit of a heater going just to help the paint cure a little better. So then we get on that side, you can see all these lines are looking really nice now. And again, the kit will come to about here, so you won't see a lot of this. And again, the aim of the game today is just literally to get the orange on here so that we've got paint behind the kit, because the car will be painted with the kit on. we are screwing the kit on, but it's also going to be bonded on, so once it's on and it ain't coming back off anytime soon. So this will go off now. We'll give it another quick coat, let that coat go off, and then we're going to start to lash some orange on there, and then we can get our wheel arches bolted and bonded back on. Right, so that's the orange on, guys, and again, we ain't going for any quality finish at this point. This is literally just so we've got paint behind the kit. This is the colour the car's going to go. It's not going to be to everybody's taste, but it is an 80s car, and an 80s nice bright colour. I have done a Manta in this colour before. I'll actually drop a couple of pictures down just above there now for you to see. The old car that I built, that was 9240 replica as well, in this same colour, and it looked absolutely brilliant. Everybody loved it everywhere we took it, so it is going to be an in-your-face car, and I think that is definitely an in-your-face colour. Just started to mock this kit back up on it now. You can see that it fits nice and tight up against the bodywork. So once we're completely happy with the fit of this, we will be, as I said earlier, bonding this to the car. We're not going to do that just yet because there might be a few fine alterations that we're going to do, so we'll let Tom, our body man, cast his eye over that before we bond it on. Same again around here, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to mock this arch up, get the side skirt on, make sure we're happy with the gaps between all three sections, so the front wing, the side skirt and the rear wheel arch. Obviously there's a split between those, so we want to make sure that those gaps are all right and everything's nice and even. We're going to be taking some measurements and measuring the distances of the arches to the sill of the window. And we've also now got cross bracing. We've sticker flexed all this in just to take out the tin canning effect from the roof, and we'll put some chocks in there just to hold that up until all this sticker flex goes off. And again, you're never going to see that, guys. Obviously there is a roof liner that goes over that as well. It's been a couple of days since the last clip. Kevin and Tom have been down here making some progress while I've been at work, so they haven't actually got any footage of what's been going on since the last clip, so I'll give you a little rundown. We've actually took this car that was originally on the body turner off the body turner. We've took the axles off Kev's car, which are now down there, so these are now off, and we've managed to get this car on the body turner. Tom's been busy throwing some primer around. As you can see, the engine bay is now in primer. You see on the last clip we got these rear quarters done and all painted so that we've got some paint behind the kit. Tom's now also prepped the top of the quarters. We've stripped all this down to bare metal all the way around this frame and carried out a couple of repairs. There was just a couple of bits of holes in this boot frame, and what we was worried about is obviously as the water is coming down the back of the car, making its way down here, because there was holes in this, the water would just basically go under the seal straight into the boot and just start to rot the car out again. So we've repaired that frame. Again, Tom has stripped all this down to bare metal, started working his way into the roof, and he's given a bit of a skim where we welded our new roof skin on. He's also been busy with the back panel. That's now pretty much all prepped up. This is just a little bit of dirt where we've been prepping the underside of the car. So that back panel's come out really nice. So what we're doing now, we've got the car on its side, as you can see. We've started to prep up some of the underside and starting to assess the bottom of this car now. We've found another hole up in this quarter, and so we've knocked all that out, cut a piece out. Kev's fabricated a piece for that. I'm just about to weld that in. And we've also noticed that the chassis rail here looks quite soft, so I've just punched a hole in that with a hammer. We are going to be putting a section of the chassis rail in there as well, and Tom has started to strip back all this bulkhead. We're going to get some of this down to the bare metal, probably to about here, because we know the back of the car there now is solid. So we're going to strip this bit out down to the bare metal and assess all this and make sure everything's good and solid there as well. So we're going to crack on now, guys. We're going to get this patch welded in, and we're going to get the chassis rail chopped out and a new piece welded in there. Okay, so we've now ground back any flaky bits on the underside of the car. We've treated it all with the usual stuff, same sort of treatment we did on the roof with the phosphoric acid and the built amber stuff. Cleaned it all up, primed it just on those bits. We're not priming the hole underneath of the car because a lot of this is solid, and this car has been bed lined in the past, so we're worried that the primer may not stick to that bed liner. We have scuffed it up a bit ready for the next lot of stone chip what's going to go underneath here. We're actually using a opel product under here now. We've gone around all the edges, seam sealed literally every crevice and seam that we could get to. Hopefully that'll stop a lot of the water ingressing into various seams and chassis rails and stuff. Obviously the chassis rails have got drain holes in, so it can drain back out of there. And again, the piece we put in there, we also put the drain hole in there as well. So the next stage for this now, we're going to let this all set. All the seam seal is going to go off, and then this is pretty much ready for the stone chip to go on underneath there. But we will be giving it another quick clean off once it's all dry. Right guys, as you'll have seen there, we've just got the car masked up. Tom is just finishing off a few final touches around the front. Once Tom's finished off there, we're going to roll the car over. Pretty much masked up all the areas we needed to. I've put some bolts in any threaded holes just so we don't fill those with the under seal. So we're going to roll this over now. Let's get this under seal blasted on the car and we'll move on to the next stage. Right, so that's the under seal all done. That's come out pretty well, considering. Again, it ain't perfect, but it is the underside of the car. The only person that's going to see this is the MOT man once a year, so that'll do for us. So yeah, pretty happy with that. We've got all up inside the front panel and everything as well. We've masked off an edge around here. That's where it's going to go into body colour, obviously, to tie in with the engine bay. That's been primed. We've got all our components over here, all painted up. All painted up, bushed up, all the poly bushes are in, cross member has all been painted. We've got our cotton reel engine mounts bolted on there now, ready to except the engine once all this is together. We've got our poly bushes ready to go in the trailing arms and our panhard rod. We've got all our strengthened arms here, all painted, ball joints all fitted, poly bushes fitted, and we've also got the upper ball joints fitted in those upper arms as well. Diff pan cover now on. Going places pretty quickly now, this car. So Tom has just been in and worked his magic. Look at that. Look at the shine on that. So we've got obviously the engine bay now painted, which means we can now put our axles together. So we've got all our axle stuff over here, ready to go, all back together. We've now just took delivery of all our stuff back from the zinc platers, so we've got some of it laid out here. That's our pedal box, come out absolutely fantastic like new. We've refurbed our steering arms, refurbed our steering rack. We've got some other bits laid out here, the starter motor, prop shaft, all that needs to be cleaned up and painted next. And then we might have got a little bit carried away with the amount of stuff we sent off to be plated. We just basically had boxes and boxes of manta parts, so we thought, why not, let's just send the lot off, and then we know we're not going to be short of anything, and we can always use these on future builds. So we thought, well, let's go in, let's just send everything.
We've got another box full there as well.
Yeah. This is our brake setup, or Kevin's brake setup, that he's going to be using on this car. This was actually built for another car. Kevin is also in the background building another Opel Manta, which has got Cosworth running gearing with a big Scimitar 4HA rear axle with a Jag V12 power lock diff in there. So these brakes was specifically being built for that car, but that car has now been put on the back burner to build that car. So now we've decided that we're going to be using all this stuff on that car, and then he can sort of dig around online and find some more of these parts and start to build this same setup again to then reuse on his Cosworth. So I'll let Kevin explain what this setup is.
Right, so first of all we have the hubs. The hubs are Monza, just the old fashioned Monza 3 litre. They've been internally modified and sleeved to take Manta bearings, so they actually go straight on now to the Manta stub axles really nicely, but we're putting new bearings in them, so don't worry about that.
New bearings are there.
New bearings there, yeah. The discs are BMW E36 M3 305mm, I believe. I bought these a long time ago, which is why they are slightly rusty. Don't worry about that, they'll all be blasted. Now, to make the caliper, which I decided I wanted Brembo 4 pots, these are actually off a Lancia Delta Integrale Evo 2. I've had these fully remanufactured. So connect a Monza hub to a Manta stub axle on a BMW E3 disc, I needed to make a bracket. So the bracket was made, which was this massive steel one, and that weighs a good amount. So then I took this bracket to Dave at XYZ Fab, who's very well known within the community, and Dave made this for me, which replaces that massive lump of steel with a nice aluminium bracket. Then when it's all together, what we end up with is 5E120, massive disc, Brembo 4 pots on a custom bracket, and that will just go straight on to the cross member you've just seen us over there build.
But that is some real good progress in the space of a couple of days. Again, look at that. Hell yeah. Looks absolutely mint. Again, on the back, we've got the rear axle under, obviously the back end back on the floor. These wheels are just on it for now as a temporary wheel. How far have we got on them wheels? Okay, it's already in there. Inside it. Let's see. Right, it's in again now. Right, between the two. Yeah. Hook. Yeah, the hook. Inside the box off very over. Don't fit. Boom. Spanner. Aha. And then like that. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? And then we have a quickly spin a nut on. I'll just stick the phone underneath the car. Let's see where that is pointing to. That is absolutely perfect. Absolutely spot on. Nice and level with the chassis rail. Doesn't sort of drop down much lower than the chassis rail. It's nice and level with the sump. And that's tucked up really nice. That gives plenty of clearance from the ground, so don't have to worry about getting battered on speed bumps and stuff like that. So yeah, couldn't ask for a much better fit than that. As you'll see, we've now treated the whole inside of the car with some stone chip, and on top of this we are going to be using some dead mat sound deadening. So we are going to be lining the whole floor all the way up into the bulkhead, and I've explained previously we are actually going to be doing the inside of the bulkhead as well, because originally the Mantas do have some sound padding, some sound deadening on the outside of the bulkhead inside the engine bay. However, it's very difficult to get off without breaking it because they glue it to the bulkhead, and over the years it gets very brittle and it just falls to bits when you're taking it off. So it gives it a nicer look in the engine bay, it gives it a nice clean look, leaving it without the padding on inside the engine bay. So to substitute for that, we are going to be sound deadening all the way up inside here, just to give it a little bit of protection in there and just to quieten things down a little bit. So we was going to start to refurb this fuel tank and clean it out and give it some paint, getting it ready to go back in the car. But we always check inside of these because we are noticing now, obviously with the age of these cars, that these fuel tanks are going bad. Once they've been sat for quite some time with not a lot of fuel in, they tend to go really nasty inside. I don't know if you can see this, guys. I'll try and get my torch in there for you as well. But you can see in there, look at the state of that. That is absolutely mullered in there. Let's see if we can get a brighter torch in. Look at the state of that in there. So, yeah, I don't think, unfortunately, that tank is going to be savable. And it certainly is not going on this car. So we do have some more fuel tanks in stock. We've got about 10 of these. Hopefully one of those 10 will be in far better shape than that, because that is definitely not going back on that car. So there's only one place for that. In the bin. So I'll take you under the car, show you a couple of little bits that we've got done underneath there. So things are looking really, really nice under here now. We've still got some bits like this, these shocker bolts that need tightening up. We just put these in loose. Same again on this side. We've got our panhard rod, which comes from this mount here and comes across and bolts into there. So we've got this to do. That is all painted, the panhard rod, and it is polybush, so it literally just needs to be bolted on. We've got our rear brake conversion that we need to figure out as well. All our brake pipes and fuel lines was running on a previous episode. We've just got a rag over the top of the gearbox here at the minute, just as we was painting the inside, just so none of that paint come down and got on top of our gearbox. So we've got our gearbox mount now in as well. All nice new shiny bolts in there, and we've actually got an uprated set of rubbers on there as well, because the old ones over time just perish. You can no longer get the original OEM rubber mount for these, so this is the solution for that, and it's actually a better mount. It's more solid than the original. The original ones you can wobble the box around and it's just not very solid at all. There's certain little bits again under here that need doing. The ball joints need tightening, uppers and lowers. We couldn't do this off the car because we need to get some weight under here, because the ball joint just spins when you're trying to tighten it up. We've got the trap rod ends that need tightening, but all the new springs are in, all the new rubber mounts are in. We've got all our new zinc plated bolts all in this cross member as well. All our nicely strengthened arms all bolted on. I've got the big discs there on the front as well, and then we've got the big 4-pot Brembo calipers ready to go on with our custom main mounts, ready to go on our modified spindles as well. Considering what it was when it came in, that is some transformation. Looks absolutely fantastic under this car. Very well protected. Hopefully should last for many years to come. And then we've got the steel torque tube there on this back axle as well. Normally these are aluminium and they are prone for braking when you get a little bit of power. So with us putting this 2-litre red top engine in here, it's just always good to have that steel torque tube just to take a little bit more power. And obviously we've got the ZF limited slip diff in there as well. We still need to fill the axle and the gearbox with oil, so that will be again on a later episode. We've got all these bolts that need tightening up. This is just placed in loose at the moment. We will be coming under here and going over this. Our prop shaft is ready for shot blasting, and that will get painted, and that can go on the car as well. So going places pretty quickly. This car's turning around pretty fast now. Should be making some really good progress on this in the next couple of episodes. Battery's dead. Fail.
What's going on?
Second attempt, and I would just like to make you all aware we are drilling a manta here and not a SpaceX satellite.
I can't actually see anything, it's too shiny.
That works a little bit better.
Okay.
Your battery's died.
Nice and quiet in here.
Third time lucky. Let's try again.
It's going to have me this, I can see it.
Yeah, that'll be alright. That's a bit. Oosh.
It's going to turn me upside down then. Do not like that.
There you go.
It's done it though.
Done. With some orange paint on a brush, just so it's not bare steel, because obviously we don't want that to rust.
I wonder if that will earth through that, what do you think? And get those a bit of wiring through.
Okay. Ow. Get your finger down there.
We've got the brake servo pipe that just needs popping in there. We are going to clean this up a little bit. It's a little bit nasty, so we'll clean it up before we put that in. We've got the pipe that needs to go to the bottom of the power cap or the air intake, and then obviously we've got to run our ducting pipe down and make a bracket for that to sit there as well. There we go, 4.5 litres in. Cap back on.
Put it on.
There. You sure? Should we just try it, maybe? I don't know.
Nah. Full send.
Maybe we should get the fire extinguisher at the ready as well.
Probably, yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm scared. Yeah. We should be.
As you can see, we do have a fire extinguisher here at the ready, just in case. I think we just go for it. Do we? I'm just going to stand back while you turn the key.
We don't even know if it's right ECU. It's all cobbled together, isn't it?
Well, there is that, yeah. But it's sparking, so it's just
That's
whether
a
it's
good point, yeah.
whether it triggers the injectors, isn't it, to throw the fuel in.
Turn the key, check for pressure. See if the fuel pump does something different. Here we go. No noise in the fuel pump.
Just give it a quick spin.
Okay.
Do it again. Whoa! It's trying.
That didn't run then.
The fuel pump's running.
Is it?
It's going to be really loud.
I'm quite scared.
It's going to be really loud.
Can we not put your exhaust on it?
Your exhaust is down there. Right, let's try again. We've just slid somewhat of an exhaust on there just to quiet it down because that was quite loud when it tried to start then. So fingers crossed now. Let's see if it'll fire.
Oh, this time we're up. Look at that. Right, here we go. We've not got any, I can't smell fuel and we've not got any drips.
Oh, there's nothing leaking.
Oh, here we go. I turned it off then.
Go on, let it roll. Stop that idle back a bit.
Doesn't sound like it gets, it sounds very noisy on that top end.
It's not, probably not picked any oil yet, but we need to open that lid in a minute and see. We're getting oil around the cams. Right, let's wind this idle down a bit. Right, let's try again. We can't let it run for long, guys, because number one, we've got no radiator on it, so we've got no coolant in. And number two, we haven't got an oil pressure gauge piped in or wired in at this point, so we're not entirely sure what the oil pressure is. And the last thing we want to do is run this thing dry and cause any damage. So I'm just going to fire it up now. I'm going to have a little look in here when it's running and just make sure I can physically see oil moving around them cans, so we're not burning them can journals out.
Yeah, it's been. Considering it's not, well, not off that engine. Perfect, isn't it?
Do you want to clean it or just put it on?
Well, bang it on.
The ECU we had on it when we had it running earlier, just to see if it will fire up now on the ECU, just so we can eliminate that being the problem. So let's give that a try, Kev, see if we do get any fire and if we do get any oil pressure this time. Go for it.
Check that oil pressure.
Yeah, there we go. Very bouncy. Yeah, it has got oil pressure. Voltage. Just the lights have gone off. I don't know why that oil pressure gauge is bouncing like that though, do you? It's a faulty gauge. So at least we know it's reading, it has got pressure. Never seen one do that before though, have you? Definitely lumpy still, isn't it? Yeah, number one's freezing cold. Right, I think before it gets too hot, I think we swap that them injectors out. I'll put you back on the stand. I'll let you watch Kevin struggle for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, thanks.
Right, so here we go again. Injectors replaced. Might take a couple of minutes, well not a couple of minutes, but maybe a few seconds even to fire up, because obviously we've lost all the fuel pressure now, taking them injectors out. So let's give it a crank and see what happens.
Let's do it. That's not very nice, nice. Here we go.
Oh.
Okay.
Maybe that was a little bit of fuel that was already in there.
Give it a little bit of. Shouldn't have to, but. Right, them injectors like something. Again, we forgot to see if the rev counter was working.
Try again.
Rev counter's moving.
Is it? Maybe that ECU doesn't like them injectors.
Right.
Try a third ECU maybe? And now, I bet you don't know which one of them injectors was the number one, do you? Which one was the faulty one? To swap it out for a good one.
I don't.
We have got another set of creams, haven't we? But that means doing all that again.
That. We're not missing anything, are we?
No.
Earths. They're right. It's got to be the injectors.
Keep dry. it, guys. She's alive, she runs, seems to rev well. It's idling much better now. It is still idling a little bit higher than we'd like it to, but we have noticed there is a bit of an air leak here from this bit of a bodge job we've done on this pipe work to the back of this power cap. So we are going to come back to this and change this out for a better pipe without all these joins in. We can also alter the idle and set this up on the throttle body as well, so we haven't really altered and adjusted that yet properly. But I'm happy with the result of that, to be fair. And that is no leaks, no coolant leaks, no oil leaks, no fuel leaks. So I'd take that as a win for a first startup. And yeah, I couldn't really ask for a much better result than that. So I think the next thing to do on this car really now is going to be start to look into the brakes. We do need to heat wrap that exhaust manifold, so that needs to come off, and we still need to torque down these head bolts again, because you're supposed to give these a warm up, I believe. Obviously this is a new build engine. We have torqued the head bolts down, but I believe you've got to get this warm up to temperature and then do those head settings again. So that is something we're going to have to come back to again on the next episode, is take that rocker cover off and get the correct, again, procedures for torquing that head down. And then, yeah, looking into the brakes, let's get these big Brembos on the front so we can actually stop it. Let's get the prop shaft on, exhaust back on, let's get this thing actually moving. Clutch cable needs to go on and a throttle cable needs to go on. And we should be able to actually drive this thing in and out of the workshop. And then it's pretty much down to the paint before we can start to put everything else back together. So I'm going to leave this one here, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Drop some comments, let us know what you think about this build so far. And we'll see you all on the next video.